Mr. Freeze? What is it, the Batman? I feel like you and I are a regular old Lennon-McCartney. Which one am I then? McCartney or Lennon? Well, since you've got all of those catchy phrases, what do you mean, like ice to see you? Yeah, yeah, like that. This much more John Lennon-y, isn't it? Yes. However, I do believe you are an incredible bass player. So perhaps you are Paul McCartney. He's a bass player? Yes, perhaps the world's greatest bass player. Paul McCartney? Yes. Among other instruments, but he does play the bass exceptionally well. In fact, he writes incredible bass lines that are memorable and stand out and not so average. Loki! Good golly. Loki, what are you doing here? It is I, Loki. I'm watching everything. I am President Loki from... We didn't want Loki to show up. Why did Loki show up? I think this is going great. I think it's... I'm not sure your idea of great, Mr. Freeze. I think it is ice. It is wonderful. In fact, Lando, he's grow. Hey, everybody. If you're Lennon and you're McCartney, that must make me Ringo Starr. Ringo? Well, he was the coolest. He was indeed the coolest. Why do I get to be Ringo? Why am I Ringo? Huh? Why can't I be George? You're Paul. You're John. Me. Look at me. I'm George. Georgie Wargie. Georgie Porgy. If you're just tuning in, I'm sorry. This is kind of sad. I mean, wow. It's Monday. Do you guys watch the Beatles? Do you like the Beatles? Does anybody like the Beatles? You ever hear the Beatles? In Canada, we've got a band that's just like the Beatles. They're called Nickelback. I think I was just gonna take it away from him there. Hey everybody, I'm Aristotle Full Throttle. This is the Aristotle Full Throttle Show. Good golly, by golly. If it's not the Aristotle Full Throttle Show, look, it even says it. It's indicated by my shirt. The shirt says it all. You can get this shirt. You can get it down in just down below if you're on Twitch. Look, there you go. I have to use my payos to cover up my. See that? Disguise. It is like camouflage. Boy, oh boy, it's Monday. Everybody loves Monday, right? I was watching Get Back over the weekend. I watched the Beatles Get Back. I was, in fact, enthusiastically enthralled, riveted by every second of Get Back. I thought it was fantastic. They reduced, apparently, 57 hours of video footage and 100 hours of audio. They reduce it. Hey, everybody. It's Raccoon Raiders. Let me speed it up even more. Let me see. It's even faster now.
Raccoon Raiders! Raccoon Raiders!
changes pitch. I didn't realize it sped up like and changed pitch. Hey everybody. Hello everybody. I was just talking about the Beatles Get Back. I watched the whole thing. I started rewatching part of it today. The Beatles Get Back. It's 57 hours of film and 100 hours of audio tape that they reduced down to 8 hours. It's 8 hours. I watched every single second of it. I loved it. I'm a big Beatles fan. Right, this monitor right here is on a Beatles book. There's a Beatles songs book. It was one of my favorite gifts I ever got when I turned 17 or 18. I got a book. My parents got me a book for my birthday called The Beatles Complete Scores, which I still love that book. It's a great book. I learned all the Beatles songs. I actually learned how to write songs by thumbing through the pages of that. And at one point in my life, I could just pull a Beatles song right out of my hair, and play it on the guitar. You know? All the Beatles songs, you know? I know almost all of them. Oh, I tell you something. I don't know that one. Understand. And I can't sing. And I can't sing that. And then it goes, I wanna hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand. That's the song. I don't know if you heard about them. They're called the Beatles. There was a band. It's cool. It's not like a beetle, see? It's not like a bug. It's spelled B-E-A-T-L-E, like a beat. See, it's a pun. The Beatles, because they played the beat. See, the best band names, I talk about this a lot, the best band names are musical related. In fact, there's no good band name unless it has something to do with music, like Radiohead or Soundgarden. See? There's a radio, and then there's a sound. Audio Slave. That's a good name for a band. I think the only types of good names for a band has something to do with music. Challenge me on that. Change my mind. Actually, don't. So I'm watching it. It's 57 hours. Reduced to 8. And it was great. It was really great. You get to see the inner workings of the Beatles and how they wrote songs together, or tried to anyway, without getting into arguments about it. Because it is funny, because, you know, I've spent the better part of a decade inside a rehearsal space, inside a rehearsal room in a band. So I know what it's like to be inside of a band when you're trying to be creative and try to come up with something and try to write something. But obviously not on the scale of the Beatles, but I understand that even on that scale, it still comes down to 4 guys just trying to work something out in a room, musically. It just comes down to that. It's the same thing. It's the same process. Very similar. And the dynamic is interesting too, because Paul, in fact, you know, he's got the pressure. He's feeling the pressure of them having to play a live show in 3 weeks, meaning they have to actually write all the songs and then perform them live, and not having performed in like 4 or 5 years as a band publicly. So Paul's feeling pressure. John is kind of rolling out of bed every morning, showing up with Yoko, and Yoko's kind of hanging out. It's kind of codependent, you know? And then George is kind of fed up. He's got 3 albums worth of material at this point. He even says it. I could go out and make my own album right now. I should just leave. And at one point in the documentary, it's like the first documentary that's on Disney Plus. The first part 1 that is. George just goes, he literally says this, I think I'll be leaving the Beatles now. I think I'll be leaving the band now. He just gets up and walks out. He quit the band like that. George Harrison says, I think I'll be leaving the band now. And then they were all like, is he leaving for real? But John is funny because John just goes, "We'll get a replacement." Because John just, as soon as something serious happens, John gets like all funny. It's really interesting to watch the dynamic. John is hilarious. He had me rolling on the floor a few times. Man, John Lennon, what a funny guy. But he said like this. They're sitting around wondering what they should do. And then they were like, we should sell his instruments. John said, we should sell all his instruments. It's hilarious. That reminds me, the terrible manager and the terrible producer. And I don't want to say that he was terrible at producing, but he's a terrible person. This guy that produced our album, my last album that I recorded with Veda, he said that like they quit. The manager and this guy quit. They were a producer and the manager, and they were married. And I wish I recorded this phone call because I would play it for you. I actually was gonna record the phone call. So they quit being our manager and our producer. And then after they quit, they said, you owe us $14,000. Which is not something that we owed them. But they had written it inside a management contract that was egregiously negotiated by one of their lawyers. It's a whole story that I'll tell on another show. But the music business, ladies and gentlemen, it's terrible. So they quit the band and they said, you owe us $14,000. And then we were like, we don't have $14,000, so go fish. And then they said, can't you just sell your guitars? Music business. They said, why don't you sell your guitars so that you could pay us $14,000? Music business. We didn't end up selling our guitars. In fact, I have them all right here. Music business. Anyway. So George left the band like that. It was kind of interesting. It's dramatic in that it was not dramatic. I think I'll be leaving the band now. The Beatles broke up like that. You know, the whole movie is interesting because you get to see them working as a band and trying to keep things going. And you see Ringo just being like happy and cheery, and Ringo's just really like this positive force. And then they bring in Billy Preston. Finally, they actually work it out with George enough to renegotiate what they're doing. So now they're no longer rehearsing for a live show on a TV show. Now they're going to Apple Studios to record the rest of the album inside, because George didn't really feel like doing the TV show and didn't like what they were doing, and you know, so he brought in Billy Preston, and Billy Preston is great. He was kind of like a charmer, you know. He just charmed everybody. Everybody seemed happy in his presence. Paul, however, is very much a musical Nazi. But, I mean, he's Paul McCartney, so he was trying real hard to be the best in the world, always. And it's, the UPS store. Anyway. So I liked it. I enjoyed it. I'm hungry. I might just quit. I might just be leaving the show now. I downloaded a game I got Oculus Rift, and I downloaded a Star Wars game, and I was playing it. I was fighting all the stormtroopers. It was cool. I could use the Force. I could use a lightsaber.